But let's start the show with a look back at events in Purfleet last week. The World Seniors Championship, Robert Thornton, the all-time great Robert Thornton, goes back-to-back defending his World Seniors title, beating Richie Howson, one of the qualifiers, 5-2 in Sunday night's final at the Circus Tavern. What did you make of the Thorns' run to what is a third title in just 4 TV events so far on this Seniors Tour?
It was just really solid. His lowest average was 89.5 against Kevin Painter. He only dropped 3 sets the entire way, and he never really was in trouble. There were definitely, some moments where it could have gotten a little dicey. Painter should have won the first set of that semifinal. Howson easily could have won a couple more sets. That's one of those matches. We talked about it before the PDC World Championships. A 5-2 scoreline might seem one-sided, but it could just be a dart here and there from being 4-3 the other way. That really was the final because there were a couple sets that went the distance, and Thornton won them. And Thornton hit at the right time pretty much every round. But he also was the best or the second best player. The only person who could have rivaled him was Leonard Gates. And Leonard Gates was also phenomenal. He didn't drop a set until the quarterfinal. He dropped one to Daryl Fitton. He averaged 97 against Martin Adams. And a match that Adams came out playing pretty well, but Leonard Gates, once he had a chance at nearly giving away the first set, he was unplayable the last 2 sets. And he was nearly unplayable against Daryl Fitton. And it just seemed like he ran out of steam in the semifinal. But Robert Thornton was that's the only player that could have rivaled Robert Thornton for the best in the tournament. But look at the performances that aren't that far off from what, at least in the earlier rounds, from what Chris Dobie did to win the Masters. He averaged nearly 94 in the first round. He averaged a little over 90 over Scott Mitchell, and then he averaged nearly 99 in the quarterfinals before dropping down back to that 90-ish average for the semifinal and finals. It was a really, really solid performance, and it shows that Robert Thornton can still play at the highest level. Yes, he didn't need to. He wasn't playing the likes of a Chris Dobie or any of the PDC tour card holders right now, but he was playing a lot of players who aren't that far off. Neil Tuff won the WDF World Championship last year. Scott Mitchell was on the tour last year. Richie Howson probably is good enough to be on the tour. He was my tip before the tournament started. He only won 3 events in the past few months on the senior tour and rightfully earned one of the spots for the Champion of Champions coming up in Blackpool in the senior tour. Was one of the 2 wild cards because, he's established himself as one of the top players on the senior tour, even before this past weekend. But Robert Thornton beat them all. Clearly the man to beat. He's now won 3 of the 4 major championships, and he will, or at least should be, the favorite going forward. We talked about it last week. Was Phil Taylor deserving to be the favorite? And the answer is clearly no. Phil Taylor played okay, but there are unquestionably 5, 6, 7 players who will play as good or better than Phil Taylor in each of these tournaments. Robert Thornton being one of them. Leonard Gates, if he plays them, being another. Richie Howson being another. But Robert Thornton is the cream of the cream in the senior tour. He's still good enough to be a PDC professional if he wants to be. And maybe he will want to be again. He's younger than some of the players on the PDC tour. That wouldn't even be the oldest Scotsman. If Ross Montgomery loses his card, he might be the oldest Scotsman if he goes back next year. But right now, he wouldn't be the oldest Scotsman. And he certainly wouldn't be the worst. He'd be one of the best. He's the best on the senior tour. He's the deserving 2-time champion. And if he decides to come back next year, he will almost certainly be the favorite to become a deserving 3-time all-time great world senior champion.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. And if we're going off the stats, then it was very similar to his run to the title 12 months ago. Like last year, made it to the final day without dropping a set. And like last year, dropped only 3 sets on that final day. Last year, it was 2 to Kevin Painter in the semi-finals, 1 to Martin Adams in the final. This time round, it was 1 to Neil Duff in the quarterfinals, 2 to Richie Howson in the final. And looking at the stats on Dark Connects, very close to tournament averages. Last year, 91.08. This year, a little bit better, 92.23. But he was also top of the 140s, top of the 180s, top of the first 9 average as well. And just looking at what he did during the week as well, and 30 of his 55 legs he won were in 15 darts or less. So when you're doing that for over 50% of the legs that you win in, averaging over the 100 mark in this field, it's going to take you very far. And I think the only difference this year was that he had his lucky teddy bear back with him, because he didn't bring that with him to the Circus Tavern last year, forgot to bring it with him, but had that this year, and it brought him a bit more luck because he went all the way and won the title. And looking at the run that he had as well, getting past Roland Sharp, winning the first round, and he said that he felt some pressure going into the first round because he was the defending champion. But aside from a 1-3-1 finish from Roland in a very good leg, didn't offer too much back at him, won that one in straight sets. And then we were looking at a tougher route for Robert Thornton going forward. Scott Mitchell in the second round, a player that's just dropped off the tour, but he wins that 3-0, the first 2 sets going 3-2, and then getting past the WDF world champion Neil Duff, who looks to be coming back into some form as well, getting past him 3-1 with that 98 average, which was his highest on TV since 2016, and the semi-final with Kevin Painter, who takes out those 2 big checkouts in the first leg, and we're thinking, the champion's in trouble here, he's got a problem on his hands. But Kevin Painter misses the set darts in the first set, and we see Robert Thornton go on to win it in a decider with a 13 darter. And you mentioned Chris Dobie as well, that the timing in the Masters, some big shots, some big legs at the right times to win that title. And we saw that here as well, because as much as we saw in the final Richie Howson have that brilliant 180-161 to take out 3-4-1 in 6 darts, and then Robert Thornton kick off that decider in the set with a 26, comes back with a well-timed 180, a 98 finish in 5 darts, and puts him 3-0 up. And credit to Richie Howson, because he was taking so many shots from Robert Thornton in that final, but he just kept coming back and got it back to 4-2. But Robert Thornton, decider of that 7th set, another 180, a 73 finish to get over the line. And as you say, we didn't see Robert Thornton at Q School last month. I know last year his plan was at some stage to go back and get back on the PDC tour, but winning these seniors events, the money that's on the line, there's 4 of them this year on TV, and he's doing well in them. You've got to imagine that he's going to stick with the seniors because it's much less travelling, that the prize money's pretty good, and he's a player that's been on tour for a long time, and he's coming towards the end of his career, but that the paydays in the seniors, they're there. And he said he wants to do a clean sweep of the events this year. He's got the first one of 2023 under his belt, and he's going to go into the rest of them, you've got to say, as the favourite. I don't think we're going to see Phil Taylor as the bookie's favourite for the next one now.